Now, are you guys ready? Let's do this.
Heck yeah, we're ready.
Let's crush it.
Let's crush. Oh, I like that.
Crush it.
Let's crush it. This is Philly and Storehouse podcast, and that's Dave, that's Murray, that's Brian, and I'm Stu, and we're gonna have a really good conversation.
We're gonna have a great conversation, Stuart. Hey, two things. First off, Murray was on, and it was right before Brian came on. I reset my computer 3 times because I thought there was something wrong with the camera, but it was just your face, Stu. Like I seriously thought your face like totally distorted my whole thing, and like but it should be running smoothly now. I just thought I'd share that.
One that has the candy,
the crooked nose.
Yeah.
And hey, I thought because you started with the fart dad fail the last time, I wanted to highlight a dad fail.
Oh yeah,
that I had. Yeah, it was good. And you guys are fathers, right, Murray, Brian?
Yes.
Yep, your dads. Yep. And I'm sure you guys are perfect dads. But so you know, I don't know for you guys, but my kids, particularly my sons, they don't like listen the first time I say something, or the second or third or fourth or fifth time I say something. Typically, so my son was in the back
every time, first time.
Yeah, no, I know your guys do all the time, which was highlighted by the story you told previous time. But so Jake, my middle son, was in the bath. It's bedtime. I'm like, come on, dude, wrap it up. And he looks at me. He's like, no. Like, no. Okay. And he drained the bath. He's laying naked in the bathtub. I'm like, no. I just told you to get out of the bath. Let's go to bed. He goes, no, I want to feel the ocean breeze. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? It's like 8:30 at night. You want to feel the ocean breeze? Okay, I got something for that. So I went and filled up a glass of cold water.
Oh.
He just had a nice warm bath. And I walk in there and he's just like feeling the ocean breeze, whatever that is. So I'm like, here's the Pacific Ocean. Bah! And I threw the Pacific Ocean breeze on him. And he was so upset. He started crying. He's like, and he got mad. And I'm like, are you ready to get out? And he goes, no. I'm like, cool. More ocean breeze. Bam. And he got out and I could not stop laughing, dude. Like he was crying.
You're terrible.
I could not stop laughing in the ocean breeze. Like I was just in my head. I'm like, it's the Pacific Ocean. That's classic. It's good. That is good material. My daughter's there and she's like, you're such a bully, Dad. I'm like, no. And then why are you laughing? If I'm a bully, why are you laughing? So anyways, that was my dad fail story.
It's good, man.
It's messed up.
You are kind of mean. It is messed up.
But it's funny.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
a clown?
Like a clown.
Right. Like a clown. Yeah. Most of our listeners will probably get that reference. Yeah, like a clown.
Well, Murray and Brian, I'm excited about this conversation. Let's get past that dad fail. That was a pretty big dad fail. And let's talk about let's talk about money. Let's talk about debt. Let's talk about United Financial, Money Max. David and I got introduced to it not too long ago, and are really excited about it. And I'd like to dig into kind of the theory behind it all, and a lot more. So first, if you guys could just introduce yourselves. Murray, we'll start with you. Because you're the first person we kind of got introduced to, and then Brian.
Yeah. So my name is Murray Beaulieu. I have a step ladder in my garage. I never knew my real ladder.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was that's a fail.
That was a dad joke.
That's a fail. Okay.
That was a dad joke.
Sorry.
And it was
I
terrible,
never knew my real. Yeah. All right.
I never knew my real ladder. That was a dad fail, but not like that failed us and all our listeners.
That failed all of us. I think it's going to fail universally. I've been beta testing that joke, and it has done well previously. I was so poor when I was a kid that my parents made me walk the plank because we couldn't afford a dog. Anyway, that's a Navy joke. But all right. So my name is Murray Beaulieu, and I'm excited to be here. I am a Army veteran. Veteran.
So
they let me on. Bad. They let me on the podcast anyway, I guess.
Yeah. Felt sorry for you.
Yeah. So my dad was a 20-year Army veteran, Vietnam veteran, and so he always said, if you don't know what to do, join the Army. So that's what I did. No regrets. Love to travel. Had a 35-year corporate career as a controller for 3 different multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 companies. You've heard of Raytheon and Texas Instruments. You've never heard of Analog Devices, which I worked for 17 years, a $8 billion semiconductor company. And great companies. I became an expert at reducing cost. And the cost of goods sold is the second item on a P&L. You know, you've got sales, and then my job was to improve the margin, and I had no control over sales. So I was in charge of reducing cost of goods sold. We did a great job. We saved hundreds of millions of dollars, not just me, but my team. We knew cost segregation. We knew sophisticated cost systems. We had hundreds of $1 million capital equipment budget every year. Big money, global operation. I knew all this stuff. It was very rewarding. But you know what I didn't know? I didn't know that mortgage interest was calculated differently than a personal loan interest. So there's a massive difference between operational finance in a factory and in a high-tech environment and personal finance. And so when they gave me an early retirement, I'm 63. 2 years ago, they gave me an early retirement. And the first time I looked at my personal finances, by the way, don't try this at home, was when I retired. And I looked at, the first thing I looked at was my mortgage. By the way, Brian was the one instrumental in getting me into this program. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him in a minute. But I realized I wasn't paying off my mortgage until I'm 85 years old. Why? I've been living here 25 years, but I had refinanced 3 times. And I was a moron because, and I had some bad advice from my accountant who I have since fired, but I was only looking at reducing my payment, right? And I was unaware that when you refinance, you start the mortgage clock all over again. And it's no coincidence that the first 7 years of a mortgage are heavy in interest payments because of the math, because banks figured out that the average length of a mortgage is 7 years before somebody either moves or refinances. So there's a reason why you're getting letters in the mail every day or every week from banks saying, hey, rates have never been lower. You know, how are they making any money if they're going to get a lower interest rate? I always thought, until I understood what was going on. So figuring that out at the, when I wasn't going to pay this mortgage off, the last thing I wanted to do when I'm retired is be paying a bank a mortgage. By the way, there's a reason I'm telling the story, because it flows into the topic here. And when I found out that I wasn't going to pay this off until I'm 85 years old, it was like a kick in the gut. It was like I became physically ill and I lost sleep over it because I dropped the ball. You know, I was too embarrassed to tell my wife that a guy who'd been working in corporate finance for 35 friggin' years didn't know how to calculate a mortgage. And so I say that because I imagine there's other people out there who don't know this. They think they know it. They know a percentage, but the interest rate is only a tiny piece. It's the math. It's the timing. And you got to know this if you're really going to get your finances straight. And so I was introduced to this program, and I was blown away for 2 reasons. Number one, if you've ever heard of Ernst & Young, this is a big deal for me. Ernst & Young is the third largest accounting firm in the world. They had been auditing me for 35 years, and they're in my underwear 6 months of the year as a corporate financial guy. And their whole business is based on reputation, and they don't sign anything off until 38,000 people check the math. And so they put, if they put their name on it, they're convinced it works and the number's good. So they had awarded our company behind this debt program, which I was introduced to, with Entrepreneur of the Year award. That's awesome. And that's big. That's huge. And it was particularly huge for me because it would be like if I was a football player and Tom Brady said, look, this is a coach you need to work with. Tom Brady has some credibility. He's not going to just throw his name around. This is even bigger than that because these guys are global. So other winners were Microsoft, Starbucks, eBay, and Apple. So that's some pretty good company. This is not a fly-by-night company, even though you never heard of it. This is a real deal. Ernst & Young vetted it, and it works. And that blew me away. Then we ran an analysis of my situation, which we do for everybody. and I'm going to eliminate $110,000 of interest payments, and I'm going to reduce the time to pay off all my debt from 30 years to 7. So I'm going to shave 23 years off. And here's the key: without changing my lifestyle, without changing my budget, and using the existing cash flow that I already have. So it's not like I'm have to sell my car and ride a bicycle and live on ramen noodles like Dave Ramsey recommends.
Right.
This is, keep eating out and all that. So I was so blown away by this that I said, I not only do I want to buy this program for my family, it really opened up. I can't tell you the relief I experienced off my shoulders when I found that there was a solution for my screw up, but I want to share this with as many people as possible. And as a veteran, we can talk about this, but you can become an agent as well. And if you're a veteran, there's no charge to be an agent. So if you're a veteran and you're interested in this, we can talk about that. But I literally feel like I have the cure for cancer. I get more satisfaction out of, some of the stories of the people we're helping, they're just paralyzed. They're just overcome and strangled with debt. And it's not like they teach this. And I get more satisfaction out of helping one family get out of debt than all the hundreds of millions of dollars I did working for somebody else. This is the best thing I've ever done. And I'm so grateful to Brian and the company. And you can talk to and just about everybody who works in this, who does what Brian and I do, feel the same way. It's such a rewarding thing. And so I'm glad we have this opportunity to share this, because I think the people who are listening to this podcast can benefit from some of these concepts that kind of open your mind up. But anyway, that's my story. It's a lot longer than you were probably hoping for, but thanks for asking.
That was great. Thank you.
I love it. Brian.
Yes, I'm Brian. Mary, don't worry. They can edit it if they need to. So
we don't edit a thing. So
it's all in there. If we could, those dad jokes would disappear, but it's fun.
No, hey, I'm Brian Nates. Yes, I'm a financial services professional. Absolutely love this product and program. I've been in financial services in some capacity since I'm 29 years old. Big believer in cash flow management. I have 3 kids, beautiful wife, Brooke, 3 beautiful kids. Love my family, love the Lord. This is, he gets the glory before anything else. So I just want to say that.
Amen.
I hope you guys are cool with that. So
totally cool.
Well, I hope we are too, because our podcast is faith, family, and financial freedom.
Yeah,
so
exactly right. Yeah, so, but yes, I was when I first got into financial services, I was a mortgage broker, and then I got into understanding things, understanding math. God took me in a different direction for a little while. I also helped oversee and help grow Christian Care Ministry, which is the MediShare healthcare plan. I was a very key part of that. We went from 10,000 members to 450,000 members over a period of time. Wow. And I was one of the main sales and marketing, product management. I oversaw a lot of that and helped grow that ministry. Very proud of that, actually.
That's awesome.
But I'm extremely proud also of what we've been able to do for clients with this product. I love financial services. I love teaching and educating, teaching people that it's not what they think, helping them understand the way interest actually works. That's my passion. My passion is really making a difference today, not tomorrow, but today. Looking forward to this conversation. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that there's so much there, and I as you're talking, I'm thinking about the different even the Bible verses about debt and what the Bible says about debt and just my personal feelings and how I emotionally feel about it. And let's get into that. You know, Brian, let's talk about how, I mean, what is the issue with debt? Like, what is this lie we're being told? You know, what does 3% really mean? And especially when people are talking about the difference of you know, taking the money and investing and earning 10% versus a 3% debt, all these things. Let's talk about that. Let's jump into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. And on that aspect, I will say, you know, guys, I the way my mind works, and David and Stu and Murray know this. I'm sometimes a little too analytical by nature, but when I first learned about the concepts that are available, I know you guys are big infinite bankers, right? You believe in infinite banking.
Yep.
So do I. Okay, so that's a good thing. But yeah, debt. Yeah, the borrower is slave to the lender. Okay.
Proverbs 22:7, right?
Right, baby. And so when you think about that, what is slavery? Bondage, right? And debt crushes families. Debt crushes most people's dreams. There's good intentions on what you want to do for your future, and then there's debt. And I mean that. It gets in the way a lot of the times. Okay, so let's in my opinion start with that, because there's all different ways that debt can be used. There's good debt versus bad debt, right? And I'm sure there's listeners that believe that, and I kind of believe that, right? There's debt that you can acquire that can turn into a good cash flow and actually build more wealth for yourself. So that's a good thing, right? However, even when you have good debt versus bad debt, got to think about this for a second. Even if you could do that, I'm sure you still don't want to pay more interest than you have to.
Nope.
Right? Okay. So if you can build equity faster with the same cash flow you have now and use that equity quicker to get more wealth, I mean, I think you would want to do that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I would rather build equity and buy another rental property in 2 years instead of every 5. That's my thought process on that. And I work with a lot of investors on this whole idea of that. So debt does get in the way, but can be used advantageously for the right purpose, you know? So yeah, the 3% versus 10%, you know, 3% is a mortgage, which like, like Murray said, I mean, next week you're going to get a letter that says we found a way to make it 2.5. Okay. And you know, just pay a couple points and now it's 2.2. All right. It's like that will always be there, but it's not what you think. It's just not. I don't know if you, David, if you want me to elaborate that on a little bit right now, I can. It's just
it.
Yeah.
okay. It's just not. And so, what do I really mean by that? Well, Mary hit on it, but take a look at a mortgage. The way interest is calculated on a loan, we get conditioned, and I'm sorry, but we do. We get conditioned to focus on rate and payment. What's my rate? What's my payment? That's what the industry has us focused on. Every mortgage broker in the world will talk about that. Every loan officer talks about that. Every car dealership talks about that. Every banker talks about that. And even on the investment side, what's the rate of return? You ever hear your average rate of return? Whether it's investments, whether it's home investment, whatever, your average rate of return. Is average rate of return the same as actual? And what do I mean by that? Okay, so let's say you have 100% rate of return this year, and the next year 0, and the next year 100, and the next year 0. Your average rate of return for those 50 years, for those 4 years was 50%.
Right.
So what about the 0% years? And I mean, really think about that, right? Because we hear this all the time. Oh, the average rate of return, the average rate of return. What happens when it's a negative rate of return and it's the wrong timing for you and your family or your company or whatever? But your average is still fine. Like, really pick that apart and think through that. And I think you'll see that it's not always what you think, is all I'm saying with that, right? And on the debt side of it, so if you have a 3% loan, $370,000 mortgage, which is the average mortgage in America right now, and the average is right around 3%, your mortgage payment is $1,560. That's principal and interest. $925 is going to interest that first month. The second month, it's $923. The third month, it's $922. The fourth month, it's $920. After 5 months, 6 months, you've paid about $10,000. So stop for a minute, and I want you all to think about your investment hat for a minute. In any other realm, if I'm your guy that's trying to help you get investments and trying to help you do things, and I say to me, hey, for the next 6 months, I want you to give me $10,000. But my fees for that are $5,500. Oh, don't worry. The other, 4,400, whatever that number is, I can't do the math there, is going to the principal of the investment. Don't worry about it. In any other realm, would we ever do that?
All day long? Oh, wrong answer.
Wrong answer.
My bad.
Well, wait,
I thought it was
everybody else does it though, right? I mean,
in any other realm, we would never do that. But when it comes to our debt and the way we service our cash flow with our debt, we just say, it is what it is. There's a reason why banks have what's called truth in lending. We all have to sign off on it. There's a disclosure, truth in lending. The truth is, goodness, the first 5 to 10 years of that loan, it's not a 3%, what they call the tip. And for those that do like researching, look it up. TIP stands for total interest percentage. That's the amount of interest volume that the bank is collecting on that debt, on that payment, compared to the principal you've actually paid. That volume matters. That's what the bank actually cares about. Why? They know whether you're a single residence, investor, whatever it may be, they absolutely know the statistics. And they know what an amortization schedule is. The statistics say that the average mortgage is people either move or you get refinanced within 5 to 7 years. So think about that. Mortgage. Mort stands for is what? Death? That's the Latin terminology of it. Amortization. Mortuary. Mortician.
Mortgage.
So think about that for a minute. And because that cycle of debt, even though we think the rate is awesome, 2.5%, 3%, and we hear this this debate of, well, yeah, that's like free money. A $1,560 payment and $925 of it's going to interest does not sound like free money to me.
Yeah.
Right? And the truth is, if you stayed in that exact loan for 30 years, which most people are not going to do that, they're going to move or refinance. Especially if you're an investor, you're probably going to refinance to buy another home. And I get that. There's nothing bad about doing that. There's good debt, bad debt. I get that. But just really understand what's happening. You just set that cycle of debt or death or mort, whatever you want to call it, all over again. Right? So if you're doing that, is that really the right thing to do? Like there's other ways to utilize equity in homes and mathematically be better. And so that's one of the things that our system does really, really well, is the cash flow aspect of it, and helping people to maximize it, and take advantage of what's the right move for them in their life and in their financial future.
So I love that. I mean, we had another guest on, and he was talking about good debt versus bad debt, and he said that, now think about this. Let's call your debt, let's have a good debt. And what if you stop paying that good debt? What happens? That lender's going to come to you, right?
That's right.
It's no longer going to be good debt when you can't pay that loan anymore. Right?
Yeah. Good point.
And
Very
so,
good point.
let's talk about that a little bit. So, Murray, you kind of hit on the difference between a personal loan and an amortized loan. Let's get into that a little bit. What is the difference? We talked about the amortization schedule, a 30-year loan. You're going to be paying a lot of interest up front. What's the difference between that and then, the personal side, the personal loan, a line of credit, a HELOC, something like that?
Yeah, what I've learned, what I should have known as a finance executive, but didn't, and what I've learned through this program, this program is very educational.
Yeah.
You learn, and I never talk about that enough, but you really learn, and you become proactive, and you understand the cause and effect of every financial decision you're going to make, because it kind of projects the future. It automatically recalculates on the fly.
Yeah.
So you get instant feedback. It's like a gamification angle of it. That's what I call it. So you have, like, another way to say it is KPIs. You have, it's like trying to lose weight. You stand on a scale, you measure yourself every week, and you say, well, I probably better lay out, probably got to drop down to 2 beers a night or whatever. But you can see the instantaneous results of what you ate, in the last 24 hours. So this is the same thing. You get instantaneous feedback, and so you start making smarter decisions. And so as a result of all this, what I've learned, and one of the fundamental ways that our program works, is each debt instrument, right? Whether it's a mortgage, a personal loan, a HELOC, credit card debt, the math, they all have interest rates and they all have terms, but the math is different on each one of them. And it almost sounds like a conspiracy, or like, someone's rigging this so that, let's try to screw over let's try to keep everybody in the dark as much as possible. There's no manual on this,
Yeah.
And so we've talked about mortgage to death, but it's called a closed-end amortized loan. And I've seen the formula for it. And it, like Brian said very eloquently, it's not free money. It's not 3%. Whatever you think it is, go look at an amortization table. There are dozens of them online, free. Plug in your loan. In fact, you're supposed to get an amortization schedule when you refinance, right? That's one of the 98 pieces of paper that the guy's handing you. Oh, don't look at that. Just sign it. No one ever spends the time to look at it. I know I didn't. Well, I did look at the bottom, and it said at the end of this $300,000 loan, you'll be paying a total of $550,000 or something like that. I'm like, God, that seems like more than 4%. Oh, just sign that. Everybody does this, And so they don't want you to really look at it closely, and you find when you start, pulling the onion back, it's friggin' scary. So we've talked about the mortgage. The HELOC is a different calculation. It uses an average daily balance. Credit cards use a different formula, right? Credit cards, there's one good thing about credit cards is you can use it free for 30 days if you pay everything off for 30. So there's an example of you can use that to your advantage, but that's because the math is different, right? And then a personal loan is what I would call, that's how I think a loan it should be, is, the amount that you pay is the formula makes sense to me. That's how I thought all loans should be. It's the percentage you pay every month is a percentage of the loan amount. So, and as a consumer, if you don't know that, there's a tendency that companies market things, and there's more of a focus on, can I make the payment? not how much does this really cost. When's the last time you saw a car commercial where they actually told you what the car friggin' cost? It's all voodoo, it's all this, well, you only have to put $9,000 down and pay $600 a month and you can have this BMW, but what does it really cost? Well, you don't need to know that. So the point is that they don't make it easy to understand. And I believe that a lot of financial institutions are, I don't want to say disingenuous. I mean, it's legal, but they don't do a great job of explaining what you're really getting yourself into. And the average person doesn't know this. The good news is our program leverages this. Our program leverages these differences in calculations to your favor. It's like leveling the playing field like a bank does. Banks are great at making money from money. In addition to the credit card example, everyone knows the example of a checking account, right? I mean, banks pay you. This is a very simple example of one of the thousands of principles that are in the background of our program that banks use, and we're giving you these tools in your favor. In a checking account, you have money in your checking account that they pay you 0 interest. And in fact, some banks will charge you if you don't have a minimum amount in there. They get the privilege of leaving money sitting there doing nothing. So if you have 10 grand, we won't charge you $250 a year. Like, wow, you're really doing me a big favor. And so what do they do with the 10 grand is they're loaning that out to 10 different people at a much higher rate. I mean, whether they're, doing mortgages or credit cards or whatever they're doing, and that's interest rate arbitrage. They're paying very low and they're making a lot of money off your money. I mean, everybody knows that, but we let them get away with that. And so we're flipping the turning the tables on the banks with our program. It does the math for you, and it shows you. It will have you direct your money, move your money around like a financial GPS. I love that analogy. So that all the resources you have, your existing cash flow, your existing budget is making, every move you're making is either earning interest or canceling interest. And it's not just sitting around $10,000 in a checking account doing nothing. So we're giving you your own ammunition back to be very efficient and get you to 0 debt as fast as mathematically possible. And so and the way it works, just to recap, is the different math of all these different kinds of debt. So you can't compare a 3% loan versus a 3% mortgage versus a 3% return on investment. That math is totally different too. And trying to compare, like in Brian's story, a 10% return. Why would I pay off a 3% mortgage when I'm getting a 10% return? Well, that's because they're totally different. It's like comparing a rock with a pair of shoes. You can't, you got to look at the underlying math. How is that 3% calculated? What interest are you really paying? Look at the tip that Brian was talking about, the total interest you're paying, and then compare that to the return. And, maybe you make a different decision. So the program enables you to make smarter decisions on that based on these
the key,
anomalies.
Right? That what I love about the program is what you just said. It's a tool to help you make decisions, because you guys aren't saying, let's be completely blunt here. Stu and I we're real estate investors, right? And this is a conversation that we had with each of you as we're setting up our programs for our personal finances. And we're talking about how to leverage HELOCs to pay down and do different things so that we can have additional cash flow to invest in real estate, to create cash flowing assets. And you can plug all that stuff into the system, and it'll help you make a decision, right? And I think that that's such a key part of the program, is it helps you make decisions. And for Stu and I, to be completely blunt, we're tomorrow have an appraiser is going to go look at a few properties that we have in Milwaukee so that we can refinance them into a loan so that we can pay off other debt in order to then pay off these debts and go buy more houses. So it's we're not suggesting, hey, everybody shut it down, pay debt,
right,
and stop, stop everything.
Absolutely. Right.
But it enables you to make a decision.
Yeah.
Can I speak into that a little bit?
Please.
Please.
So what really is the magic of mathematics is the way interest is calculated is different based on the kind of debt that it is. And Mary hit on that. But, you know, you could take, people don't realize this, but you could take 5 different types of debts, okay? Mortgage, student loan, credit card,
HELOC,
and
car loan.
car loan. Yeah, great, right? All different balances, all similar rate. The actual interest cancellation are all different. Matter of fact, in our program, it understands, and what do we mean by that? The mortgage, we know how that's calculated. The HELOC is a great example, or personal line of credit, or business line of credit. The way it calculates interest is based on what's known as the average daily balance. So some people understand what velocity banking is, right? I'm sure you guys have talked about that before, right? Yeah. And so you can utilize the way interest is calculated on a line of credit to pay towards other debts mathematically and cancel out years of interest without changing your cash flow at all, right? Now, wouldn't it be cool if there was a mathematical formula and engine behind the scenes telling you exactly how to maximize every single penny you have to cancel out as much interest as possible with the accounts that you already have? And that's called the Money Max account. That engine does exist. That is our program we're talking about here, guys. But I want to be very clear. We're not saying just pay off all your debt, right? Like we're not saying that. What we're saying is understand how all this debt is affecting you and your goals. I will say this, there's 2 kinds of main people that we do help with our program. And I think this is crucial for you guys, for your listeners. One is, of course, the person that has debt, wants to get out of debt, would love to know the fastest mathematical path to just get rid of debt and be done with debt and be debt-free, and freedom to them is debt-free. That's one. Then, like you two, there's the people that they're okay with some debt. It's okay to have debt. I believe that. It's okay to have debt, especially if you're using that debt, like we talked about earlier, good debt to build wealth. That's okay. However, this type of client that we work with a lot, I mean, if you're an investor, you have to see this program. You have to, and understand it to really see what it's going to do for you. Because a lot of the investors that use our program, it's not about getting out of debt. It's about seeing the cause and the effect of your financial decisions before you even have to make those decisions.
It's good.
Right? Yeah. And understanding and plan. So a lot of our clients that are investors, they love the idea of building equity and using that equity to buy the next property.
Yep.
Right? Or consolidating a couple, like what you're doing. Like, they love that. However, here's what's cool. Our investors have already planned for that, and they're projecting what it's going to do to them before they even have to do it. So they can tangibly see it and understand how it's going to affect them and their goals, not debt freedom. Here's a great example. I have a client, 24 properties, 24 mortgages. On our system, when he first got it, it's going to save $4.1 million in interest.
Wow.
Have all 24 properties if he just stuck with what he originally got on the plan to do. 11 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
I would say that's pretty good wealth. 24 properties paid off free and clear in 11 years. That's a lot of rental income coming into him. Okay? Yeah. A lot. And saving $4 million in interest. But guess what, guys? He didn't do that. He's an investor. He already planned out his next 5 properties, when he was going to buy them, what his rent was going to be for them, what his taxes were going to be for them. He already projected out exactly what he was going to do. He's now on pace for 30 properties in 15 years. I promise you, there is a lot of value in being able to see. It's almost like we all know what a GPS system is in our car. We didn't know what that was 30 years ago, but now we do. Technology makes things better, almost, right? Some things, right? But technology is a good thing, right? So with a GPS system in your car, if I wanted to drive to your house, I put in your address and I go. I'm not going to use a map anymore. Heck, I'm not even going to go to MapQuest and print out the sheet because technology is better. So what do? I put in the address, and what happens if a bridge goes out, or if a bunch of, there's a traffic? I mean, goodness, if you use the Waze app, I know traffic is 5 miles down the road. I know if there's an accident, right? And it redirects me if I want to be redirected. And it just tells me what to do. If I make a wrong turn, what happens? Recalculates.
Yeah.
Right? If I make 5 million wrong turns in a row, it just recalculates. It's not shutting my car off, even though probably for some of us it should. Right? But it's just recalculating. All it cares about is the fastest path to what your goals are. Not my goals, your goals. You're the one driving. So what our system does for investors is impeccable, guys. And you guys know that. That's why you're using it, right?
Yeah.
That what our system does is it allows you to put in the goals that you want, and you can see what your destination is before going forward, before driving the car. You can see what it's going to do to you. So what happens when your destination changes? Well, in a GPS system, you put in the new destination and it just recalculates your path. So if I want to come to your house and I say, I always wanted to go to that restaurant before I wanted to come to Stu's house. I always wanted to go to that restaurant. I'm going to stop there for lunch. So I let my GPS know, actually, please add this destination. And it says, you're adding an hour and a half to your drive. And I say, that's okay. I always wanted to eat there. Stu's not that important. I'll get to him later. Right? And with this, think of that, but for cash flow and your mathematics of, hey, I want to buy that new property. I want to do this. I want to do that. Oh, you just changed your destination, which is the debt freedom or the cash accumulation. I mean, there's so many things that you can set as goals, and you get to tangibly understand the cause and the effect of how it's going to affect the goals that you have, but before you even have to make that decision. That's the real value of this program. And I think you guys see that, right?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, those are pretty easy equations, so you could figure that out on your own and put it in a spreadsheet, couldn't you?
Sure. Yeah,
it's easy.
Absolutely. So, you could put an Excel spreadsheet and it would be like using the map.
Yeah.
I'd rather use technology.
Well, it's interesting because I've had that argument, though. In all honesty, I've had people send me spreadsheets and say, just use this. And I'm like, this is not even like, for me to send me a spreadsheet you're already wrong. But, it just isn't the same thing.
Here's the difference. A spreadsheet will show you the numbers, and it will show you a static report making assumptions that everything's going to be exactly like that for the rest of the 9 years. And that's what's going to happen if everything stays the same. And that's why I say it's like a map or MapQuest. It's a static report. It's not dynamic. It doesn't recalculate a path, because here's why. Even on an Excel spread, like, your expenses change every month. I mean, goodness, on rental properties, right? Yeah. Expenses change all the time. And so what you want is a system and a tool that you can say, okay, that changed. What's my path now? Or you can, this is a true story. I had an engineer, truly a NASA engineer. He's one of the engineers that put the rover on Mars right now. Okay, like he's literally on that team. he was investigating our platform and our tool and our program, and he built a spreadsheet. And after he built it, we had like 3 or 4 more conversations, and he's like, yeah, I can try to emulate what your program does naturally. He goes, and I can probably get it to work. He's like, but why in the world do I want to spend all that time when I click of a button, it's done for me? He goes, I'm in. I get it. This is awesome. Right. So, and he not only became a client, he became an agent as well. Right.
Awesome.
So, there are times when we think doing it on our own is a great thing. That's with anything. You know, I promise you, if you and I sign up for a gym, now, David, you're a beast. I'm not. But if I hire a personal, if I hire, no, not too much.
Don't give him a bigger head than he already has.
But I promise you, if I hire a personal trainer and you don't, I will probably have better results. Meaning, let's say we're both the same person, all that. Now, if I hire a personal trainer that also gave me an app and keeps me accountable to my actions and actually pinged me every time I didn't follow those actions, I bet I have better results than just someone that hires a personal trainer. Right? So
yeah,
that's the whole idea. Is it
well,
keeps
and
focus on the
to go a step further, and they talks about this in one of the videos, is if you had an app that, what do they call it, the magic fork, right? If you had an app that if it told you if you ate that number of calories, what it would impact you, how it would impact you in the future, you probably wouldn't eat those. Yeah, while you're eating,
yeah,
you probably wouldn't have those calories, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with this program. Well, so for the people that are listening, they're like, what in the world are you guys talking about? Like, what is this program you are even talking about? We've been talking about this. Yeah, we've been talking about this program. What is the Money Max program? What is this all about?
Mary, you or me?
Well, okay, so I've only been exposed to the company, the program, for a year. So this is my answer, that it's an award-winning technology platform that measures all your you input all your personal information, your debt, your income, and your expenses, and it acts like a financial GPS. Okay. It's a standalone tool. It's not connected to any of your bank accounts. You don't change anything you're doing in life. You continue to use you have your existing lifestyle within your existing budget and cash flow. You continue to pay bills like you always do. And you just update our program with whatever the reality was of whatever your spending actually was, whatever your income actually was, and it will readjust. And it gives you a constant readout of where you stand in relation to debt. And this is just one of the features. And you can always put in future, purchases, future financial things, such as new property, such as buying a car. And you can see the immediate impact. And before you do it, like Brian said, you can do it in advance, and you can't break it. It's constantly recalculating, and the program will occasionally digest all that information, and then it understands all your debt. It understands where you are in your debt, and understands all these different math concepts with all the debt you have that we've been talking about. It understands your income and your expenses, and it will make recommendations periodically. You continue to pay the minimum amount on every debt you have, until the program comes along and says, well, in addition to whatever you're doing on your normal MasterCard payment this month, you're also going to move an additional $320 to that MasterCard payment, or whatever. It takes a look at all your debt, and it figures out which one is going to give me the biggest bang for my buck to get rid of that debt first. And it's not just always the highest interest rate. It's not always the highest payment. It's not always the highest amount you owe. It applies all these variables. And so all you do is follow the steps. It requires about 10 minutes a week, you know. Go ahead, Brian. You're going to jump in.
Yeah, I'll just want to jump in on that because one of the things that is really understands is what we're talking about, that interest is canceled, calculated differently, right? Yeah. So it will understand. We talked about velocity banking earlier, but it will understand. The system was designed. $20 million developed it. Mathematical engineers, program developers. All it ever cares about, why we compare it to a GPS system, guys, is all it ever cares about is mathematically the fastest mathematical steps to cancel out as much interest as you possibly can, hit the goals that you tell it are your goals, which includes savings and other things, and without changing your cash flow or lifestyle. So what do I mean by that? It understands. There are times when Mary says to take money from one account to the other, it doesn't mean just like savings it could tell you to take money from the HELOC to pay towards a certain debt, because the way interest is calculated over here is different than the way interest is calculated over there. And why that's so important is because mathematically speaking, we don't think of things like that, right? So it understands the perfect path to what your goals are, not somebody else's, yours. Yeah. And that's really important to break that down. So what is it? The Money Max account is an online digital dashboard, financial GPS, if you think about it that way, that you can use and activate, and you get coaching with it. It's actually a service. The service comes with the platform for you to use. You're a lifelong client. You get free upgrades. It is an impeccable thing. I've used it personally since 2006. That's a lie. 2007. I knew about it in 2006. I didn't get it until 2007. I paid off homes with it. I just bought a brand new home, $320,000 mortgage. My first mortgage payment was January of 2020. I'm going to save over $200,000 in interest, have it paid off in less than 4 years.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Tell them the abbreviated version, very abbreviated version of the coffee machine, please.
Oh,
this is
a long story.
Just do the financial part.
Okay? Sure. So
this is an amazing story.
Part of the program, a lot of people say, is it like the Dave Ramsey, debt snowball, that kind of stuff, right? This is Dave Ramsey on steroids. Okay. So what do I mean by that? The methodology of paying off debt with a debt snowball, that's good. It helps. Like, it keeps people motivated. That's not a bad thing. You pay off the lowest debt first, and then you get the next one, and then the next one, right? And you keep committed to that goal. Problem is with that is life happens. Things come up, and next thing you know, you're off doing that because you forgot about it or whatever. Our system allows you to budgetize. If you want to have a virtual envelope system, you can, all right? Meaning you can categorize all your expenses if you want to, or you can just use it as a cash flow thing. Trying to make this a quick part for Murray's sake. For less than 4 years, over $200,000 in interest. Real story was my wife and I. So COVID hit, and I wanted to get out of the house a lot. So I started going to Starbucks a lot. My wife is the one that updates our Money Max account. My wife said, "Hey, can I show you something?" Sure. Look at what you're spending at Starbucks every month. Okay. Accountability is sometimes kind of neat, right? I was spending $250 a month at Starbucks. Okay. I mean, coffee here or there, sometimes a treat. Sometimes I'm such a great husband because I bring her coffee, but I was spending $250, not even thinking about it. So she goes, "Hey, that coffee machine I always wanted to buy? Fancy, big coffee machine, makes cappuccino, espressos, all that stuff." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm getting it. I've always said no to that. We're not buying a 500, 600, we're not doing it like that. Why would we do that?" And she goes, "Let me show you something." So she put into the platform a what if scenario, which is what we encourage our clients to do all the time. she put in, gonna buy the Starbucks. I mean the coffee machine. And because of that, she made a deal with me. You're not going to Starbucks as much anymore. Every single morning, I'm going to make coffee for you. And we're going to sit down as husband and wife, and we're going to have 15, 20 minutes. The kids are going to stay upstairs. Now, this is over a year ago, by the way. And we're going to have 15 minutes as husband and wife, 15, 20 minutes before the day gets started, just you and I. She goes, but I'll make you coffee every morning. You're not going to drive to Starbucks. And she made a deal. She goes, and I promise it will taste better than Starbucks.
That's a deal.
That's a deal.
Money.
She goes, but that didn't even convince me. I was like, why? And she goes, let me show you something. Because guys, I'm motivated by numbers, right? So she turned the screen around on the Money Max account because it's a web-based system that you log into and you use for those listening. So she showed me by buying that coffee machine that I never wanted to buy because I could tangibly understand how it was going to affect my cash flow and my debt and interest cancellation, and not going to Starbucks as much. She gave me a budget of $50 a month still, okay? Because all my coffee should be coming from her, is what she said, right? So I was kind of cool with that. But when she showed me by buying the machine she always wanted, so one could say she maybe manipulated me a little there. By buying the machine and me only spending $50 a month on Starbucks and not $250 like I was, I mean, it literally took 11 months off of our debt.
Wow.
11 months. So we bought the machine right away. Like literally said, go ahead, Amazon. She bought it.
That convinced you. That convinced you. That was it.
Money is what convinced me. The 11 months. And
that's a win-win.
It was. And I'll tell you what, guys, for our marriage,
yeah,
it's been awesome. I mean, every day we have our time together. I'm an entrepreneur. You guys are entrepreneurs. You know, I'm busy, right? We're doing things, right? But for the first 15 minutes of every day now, her and I are together, and we talk about awesome. Our day. I was a horrible, like I'm okay admitting this. I was a horrible. So I've been in ministry, and I'm a phenomenal. I'll pray for anybody. I'll stop my day and pray for somebody and try to be a good Christian mentor to others and do things for others. I was a horrible Christian leader of my own home. And the Bible's very clear about that, right? And as a man, as a husband, as a father, I was horrible at it. So now when we finish our coffee time and stuff, at the end of our coffee time, we'd say a quick prayer together as well. And I wasn't doing that. The day got ahead of us. And so one could say it actually helped our marriage and our faith, and it kind of did, you know?
The Money Max. Money Max.
Right.
Money Max, baby.
Fringe benefits.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, pretty cool. So that was the story I think, Mary, you wanted me to share, right?
Yeah. I love that
story.
story.
What made it real was when I saw my time on the top recalculate 11 months gone, right? It went down by 11 months. So it's pretty awesome.
That's incredible.
Pretty compelling.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I got the program started like 3 months ago, Murray, was when we about signed up.
Yep.
And it's if I follow it like it tells me to, it's going to save me about $240,000 in interest.
Holy cow.
I'll be debt free in 8 years. Right now.
And you got a lot of stuff a lot of moving parts there.
A lot of moving parts. Yeah.
That's great.
I almost had my I was talking to my wife about this and talk about like expenses that come up, you know, that we're not planning for, right? Like I was looking kind of in the future, and we had this month we had been kind of saving up, and we were going to make a big payment to pay off our car loan, like in full. Right. And I was like, this is awesome. And then like my wife had a few extra expenses that we weren't kind of planning for, and it like put an extra few on the credit card, and it changed it and updated. And then, so it did make the full payment to the car loan. And so then I was like, there's like $700 left on the car loan. And I'm like, I just so want to just like pay it off. Right. Like I was like angry. I was like, oh, I just want to pay this thing off now. Cause I'm like so fired up to just get rid of that debt. And I mean, for me, like it's a load off of my shoulders. Right. Like The car debt payment, it's not
Mm.
much. It's like $300, right? But like having that loan off of me, that you know, the Bible, Proverbs 22:7, like the slave to the lender. I feel like once that thing is done, it's like, oh man, no more debt.
Off his shoulder, right?
It's done.
Yeah.
Well, you can't calculate it, right?
You can't calculate that.
You can't calculate, and that's the part that I not struggle with, that I love about this, and that I struggle with communicating, because people want to talk numbers all the time. They want to talk numbers on a monthly basis. They want to talk about a payment, and they want to talk about the potential cash flow for that moment in time, or maybe even for a couple of years. And what keeps coming back, and Stu, you and I have this conversation all the time, is just the freedom to see the number, and not even to see the number, but to hit the number, and what that will do for you. And you can't even measure the potential that it also unlocks for your mind freedom. Stu and I are reading this book called The Wealthy Gardener, and he talks about debt in there, and talks about, it's an amazing book, but he talks about he talks about the pressure of, and one of the quotes that sticks out to me says, money makes an awesome servant, but it makes a terrible leader, right? And you don't want to be the one serving money. You don't want to be the one in debt. I'm sorry, that debt, you know, when they talk about leveraging debt, and when they talk about just the weight of it, and once that's off your shoulders, it opens up a huge opportunity that you can't measure. And that's the part that, you know, that I like to emphasize with this thing. And you can't quantify it. And it's hard for investors. It's hard for engineers. You can't say, well, it's going to save you, you know, it's going to save you a couple $100,000, but what is it going to save you in worry and time and concern? Because it just takes so much of your capacity to worry. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about it.
Well, and we know this podcast, like a part of the podcast is financial freedom. Well, freedom, like what is freedom, right? Like you can like get in debt and build your net worth and have all these assets, but at the end of the day, that debt's still there. And like, do you want to build this huge net worth, and like your debt is still going to be there, right? Like what if you just paid off all your debt, and maybe you had a couple rental properties or 10 rental properties, and they were all paid off? Man, talk about freedom.
Yep.
That's freedom. Yep. Not having a debt payment and having everything paid off free and clear and just straight up cash flow. That's freedom. Like not having millions of dollars of debt with a net worth of 10 million. Like there's still a lot. There's no freedom there, because as long as if your tenants stop paying, or if you stop working and you can't pay that debt anymore, there's no good debt anymore. Right?
There's no good debt.
That's right. And remember this too. Net worth, I mean, assets minus what?
Debt.
Liabilities.
Liabilities.
Yeah.
So we just, you know, think about that too. But yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, freedom. It's awesome, Stu. It's perfect. You know, freedom is free.
Yeah.
One of the best feedbacks I've gotten from clients, of which there's been many great feedback, like you guys just said, is a simple woman who said, you know, what I really like about this is I don't have to think about this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you just follow the steps, and now she can focus on stuff she wants to focus on. And for me personally, people say, you see how bad I look now, but people say I look 10 years younger since I started using this program. I mean,
you must have looked old.
I really looked awful. You can imagine. People had to check my pulse. But seriously, you know, debt can be stressful. I mean, financial stress is a real thing, and we all know stress is not good for your health. So, and you know, Brian told the story about his marriage and the coffee maker, but I'm telling you, I've seen, when I'm doing the presentation, I see couples, and you can see the relief when we show them what's possible. This honestly does help marriages. It's not part of our marketing But financial stress
Maybe it should
within a
be.
marriage, yeah, maybe it should
Well,
be.
it's the number
Financial
one
stress,
cause of divorce, right? Number one
it
cause of
is.
divorce is finances,
And
right?
this gives families a path now. That's what they need is direction on how to get to where they want to go, whereas before they were stuck or strangled. So it's anyway, we're kind of talking about the same thing, but it's a
Yeah,
big deal.
and on
It's
that
more than just money.
note, what you were saying, I have an investor that was able to bless somebody during COVID.
Mm.
I want to talk about that for a minute. His name's Edgar. He's an investor. He has multiple properties. Murray, you may know him.
I know Edgar. Yeah, he does the Spanish translations. Yeah,
Yeah.
great guy. Great guy.
Phenomenal guy, but he's an investor, and he's been using the Money Max account since 2007. Okay,
Mm.
And he has multiple properties all over the country in different states. And he loved this program so much he became an agent, right? I mean, like he loved it. But because of the way it allowed him to be free and clear on multiple properties now, COVID hit, and his rent, there was 2 properties that the renter just could not. Now I know they were protected and all that stuff too, but they didn't even have to worry about it. Like he just said, you know what, like take a year off. Like he literally like take a year off, don't worry about it. Like
Wow.
when we can figure this out later, he goes, I'm good. And he started crying. He's a Christian, he loves the Lord. He's like, I was able to, without them having to go through all the rigmarole, and I was just able to say, I'm going to bless you. Like when you get back on your feet after you go back to work and all that, we'll start the rent back up again. But he didn't even have to think about it. He was able to bless these people.
So good.
Now, granted, most investors will be like, "Whoa, that's cash flow." Yeah, right. Especially when you have a mortgage, you got to worry about that cash flow, right? But when you don't, and if he was able to bless them, there's something there that's pretty special.
Yeah, I love
Yeah. It's interesting because Stu and I don't, and a lot of people probably don't necessarily realize it unless they know who we are, but we vet the people that we talk to. We vet the people that we seek advice from. We vet the organizations that we give to Exodus Road. We don't give without talking to the founders, to the owners. We're very much conscious of who we partner with and tie our names to, and we became huge believers of this, and we became, we're doing the agent thing, and we're super excited about the product, but it's not to create a line of income. If it does, that's awesome. If God blesses it that way, it's great. But what I love about it is it offers the opportunity for people to be free from the slavery of debt. And Stu and our investors, we will continue to leverage debt with the goal and the intent of being fully paid off in 5 years or whatever it is for all business properties. But it gives you a path and a vision and a tangible picture every single day, if you desire it, when you log into the program, to see what your freedom number looks like and the hope that can generate, the marriages it can save, just the pure joy that someone can have to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel is, to me, is a beautiful thing. It's huge, and I love it. And it's this has been a huge pleasure for us to get to know you guys, for you introducing this program to us, because we're pumped about it. We're super excited about it.
Awesome.
And
we're glad to have you.
Oh, it's great. And again, it helps you make wise decisions when you're making investments, when you're trying to see cash flow and do those things. But that story you just told about Edgar, that's amazing, right? What an amazing way to honor his faith
and that's what
and
it's
his
about.
tenets. That's what it's about, man. That's what it's about.
Yeah,
so
that's what it's about.
I love it.
Guys, this is we're at an hour mark. We could probably talk for another hour. I know we could, because we could go on all night. This stuff is, I like to talk about this stuff a lot. And I don't think that David and I meant for this conversation to be a sales pitch on Money Max, but what we really hoped to get out of this, and I think we nailed it on the head, was just for our listeners to kind of just open up their mind a little bit. Open up their mind and just understand what this is all about, and understand that there is some different calculations. Understand that there are different ways to be free, to have financial freedom, and understand how this can make a really big impact. And
it generate healthy discourse, right? Like
yeah.
we've had some really good conversations about this.
Yeah.
People are hungry for knowledge on finances, and this just is just another way to have those conversations, which I think is amazing. So if anything, again, like Stu said, not trying to sell it, but if it generates conversation or opens your mind to a different perspective, a different concept, or at least introduces you to something that you never really understood or even thought about before, maybe you just pull out your amortization sheets and take a look at that. I think it'll be very eye-opening. And when you do simple math calculations, that you look at the end of that, and you figure out, okay, I paid this much much interest for a house that cost me this much. It's pretty simple. You didn't pay 3%, right? It's a very simple, just a 1 minute exercise. You could at least see, just to start the thought process and the conversation. Yeah, I didn't pay 3%. What does this mean, and why does it look like that? And which is important.
Yeah,
great advice.
Awesome.
Murray, Brian, thank you guys. This was fun. I really appreciate you guys jumping on. I know you're busy men. You guys have families and lives, and this was good stuff. I know our listeners will get something out of it. Hey, again, like David said, if this piques some interest, let's jump on some more calls. Let's have some conversations about what this looks like. And there's tons of great videos. There's tons of explanations on all of this. David and I are happy to jump on. We can get Murray and Brian on the phone. We'll do some Zoom calls. Whatever you guys want. So check it out and hit us up. We'll put some links in the show notes of this podcast where kind of see more about it, and then you guys know how to get a hold of us, and we can have more conversations.
But if you don't, you can go to our storehousesuitesandturnkey.com. Has all of our different links, has all of our different ways to get a hold of us. And I heard this just in the spirit of Murray. I heard this earlier. But I hear the worst part of losing a dance competition is the agony of defeat. Yeah, that was for you, Murray.
Thank you very much.
Go share this. Give us 5 stars. Hey, screenshot this. Share this episode on your social media. Follow Murray and Brian, and most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks, gents.
Crush it, guys.
Crush it.
Crush it.